It was interesting to me to listen to the distraction of the crowd as a slow, mellow video is being played, but it was awesome for me to see the room settle. For you to begin to really pay attention to what was on the screen. And that word peace often stands out to me because what I thought peace was isn't what peace is. That's why I tried to snort peace, drink peace, sleep with peace, drive around in peace, put peace on my business cards. See, the peace that I was thinking the world or something of the world could give me isn't the peace that will sustain me in my recovery. I literally just got off an airplane and came directly here, and I had run into a younger gentleman that came to our program many years ago. I think he's got possibly about 5 years of not just sobriety and freedom. It was a real joy to see him on the plane, and I'll never forget my first encounter with him at SV7 in the living room all those years ago. And he was on his way to an NA meeting, and his mom had brought him over to the house, and he wasn't so sure about living in a house. What I told him, I said, all you have to do is not make a decision right now. Go to your NA meeting, and I believe God will tell you what to do. And then about 10 o'clock that night, he called me back and he says, I don't know if God told me or not, but I know this is what I'm supposed to do. And he stands years later with fruit and respect and all those different things. And before I left town on Thursday evening, I put this message together. And this past Sunday night, Pastor Jed in the morning service did a great job talking about being disconnected. Let's give him a hand. So I put this message together. Usually I take Sundays and bring it into Tuesdays, and God had given me something else, and I began to meditate it over the weekend, and I studied it on the plane, and I studied it before I walked out here tonight, and God took a different twist to it. But last week I talked to you about connections, and Lord, I thank you for another day above ground and out of prison. Lord, tonight I pray that we're able to get connected to you in a way that we did not know was possible. Lord, that you are longing and we are longing to be connected to you. Lord, give me the words to say. I ask for forgiveness of all the things that are in me that are not of you, and there's a lot. So I receive the forgiveness that I may stand up here purified as a messenger, a flawed messenger, just trying to do the best I can. Give me the words to say, think through my mind and speak through my vocal cords. In your name we pray, amen. So I talked about my street life, and I don't think it's much different than yours. It was important to me, doing dope, that I was connected to the right people. I never stopped until I had, in my mind, the right connections. I never liked when I relapsed after multiple years of sobriety, just to be real with you, because when I was off the streets for many years, I had lost my connections. I told each and every one of you last week, it's probably a good idea to delete some phone numbers in your phone. It's probably even better, they're embedded in your mind before your social security number. And ask God to relieve those, and I'll take it a step further. It's probably a real good idea to change your number. But we don't want to let go of those connections. We don't want to let go of those connections, and we don't want to totally surrender. And now that I was so privy and so bent on getting connected in the streets, why is it that I'm hesitant in these rooms? Why is it that on the streets I wanted to get connected and buy something that was killing me, but when I get in here I'm not so overly concerned or even zestful about getting connected to people that are connected? Because there are people in this room that are connected to God at a high level. And those people walk in humility. So a lot of times, if you want to get connected to God and you don't know how, get connected to somebody that is connected. One of my old-time friends who I've always had much respect, and I know he's a connected man. He was a connected dope dealer in the street. Sorry for putting you out on Front Street, but I'm here to tell you he's connected in the kingdom. Charles, stand up. This is a friend of mine. I love him and I respect him. He's a man of God. It's always good to see connected people. It's always good to see connected people now connected to kingdom business. So as I began to study and meditate on the Word, I want to take you through the steps because the 12 steps were designed for us to get connected to God. But a lot of times, there's a reason why I never worked the steps, and there's a reason why I had to go to 11 treatments is due to the fact that I was a start-over king. When I got sober, I just wanted to start over. And I just wanted to forget about everything that happened. But in order to get connected with God, the first thing we need to do is get connected with our past. It's quiet in here. The 12 steps connect you, the majority of them connect you with your past, the very thing you're running from. And that's why people don't work them. They'd rather not talk about them. You'd rather not talk about something that's talking to you. You got to be real that this stuff is talking to you, so you got to talk about it. I watched a killer movie last night, Thank You for Your Service, about the men and women in the military that come back from combat that struggle with different things, and God had placed something on my heart, and I'm not going to go so far to tell you about it right now, but I believe that this is what he wants me to do for people like that in the years to come. But if anybody has served in our military, I want you to stand up right now. Let's give them a hand. So I want to reiterate what was on my heart, and not even while I was studying, just before I walked out here, is the reason why we don't want to work the steps is because working the steps, the first 9 steps are about connecting with your past and connecting with God and learning how to disconnect. So in order to connect with the we of the program, the spiritual part of this program, you're going to also have to connect with your past. But in order to connect with your past, you're going to have to connect with God, because you're not going to be able to connect with your past because there's too much shame and guilt and condemnation with it. So you're going to need God's help, and you're going to need our help. God always answers a problem with a person. God sends people into your life for you to connect with in order to get connected with Him. And the thing that I've learned, I got connected with God by working the steps. And I love the first step where it says, and I want you to really meditate tonight as I'm teaching, and I'm asking God to help me with this because I didn't get a clear revelation. I knew He was trying to put something on my heart, and I'm always not the greatest at reading things. But what I'm telling you is this: you're going to have to learn to disconnect and connect, possibly all at the same time. That's why we know that it can be the best of times and the worst of times all at the same time. So when you look at the 12 steps, a way to be disconnected, as it says on your sheets, is to think that you can control your addiction. That's the first sign of a disconnection of the reality of your own life. A disconnection, and as it says on your sheet, thinking that you can control your addiction in your own life. I mean, that's a disconnect. Our best thinking got us here. There's something that Albert Einstein says that more or less the same mind that created the problem can't solve it. The same person that got you here you can't in your own strength keep you here. You need God's help. You need the help of the we of the program. But the first step says, we admitted. A disconnect is to think that you can control this. I love the first step as I got farther along in my recovery, because I'm powerless over people, places, and things. I can't control you. You can't control me. I can't control what people think, do, or say. So I'm powerless over that. But it says, we admitted. Once you admit it, you get connected. If you haven't admitted yet that you're powerless, you in turn are not connected. You think that you can do this, and me too. And now it says over our dependencies, over our addiction. Whatever your step says, I put dependencies in there because I just don't have drug addicts and alcoholics. I got porn freaks in here. I got gamblers. I got every type of freak in here. And I've been every type of freak. Who's a freak? Praise God. We got a lot of freaks in the same room. But the thing is this, that I had to get connected by admitting. But here's another thing I needed to get connected to: my powerlessness. The first step is about being connected to your powerlessness and your lives had become unmanageable. I had to get connected to the unmanageability of my own life. I had to disconnect of the control problem I had of trying to control my addiction and trying to control my life. I had to get connected to my unmanageability. I had to get connected to my powerlessness. And how I got connected with my unmanageability and powerlessness is by going to a lot of first step meetings in a big meeting. Like we go to AA or NA. Does anybody need a first step meeting? My sponsor made me go to those, and I'm grateful he did, and I listened to him, to get in connection, to connect with my own powerlessness and my own unmanageability. Now, the second step, a good way to disconnect is believe that you have enough power to restore your own life. That's a disconnect. If you think, or I think, that I have enough willpower or manpower or just overall power, mind power, to control and restore my own life, that's wrong. So in the second step of the 12 steps, it says came to believe. Now, if I got connected in the first step to my unmanageability and my powerlessness, now I'm going to come to the realization that this ain't going to work within myself. I've connected with the truth of my own unmanageability. And how did I connect with the truth of my own unmanageability? When I got here, I had to begin to connect with my past. I had to begin to connect with my unmanageability and my powerlessness. Now, the second step says, came to believe. It was hard for me to believe because all I believed in was failure. All I believed in was sabotage. All I believed in was shame. All I believed in was guilt. All I believed in is condemnation and all the mistakes I made and everything I'd lost. So it was hard for me to connect with the belief. So it says, we. So I needed your help for me to connect with my belief. We came to believe. You hear it say in the rooms all the time. First you got to show up. If you're here tonight, you're here and you're heading in the right direction. And that's all you got. And if all you got is you're here, let's give the people in the house who are here a round of applause. When you first show up, then you come to. If you don't use and you're not under the influence, and it may take, especially benzos, some time to get the cobwebs out, you eventually come to. And when you come to, you're going to have a hard realization. When you come to, you're going to have to go back to step one and connect with your powerlessness and your unmanageability. But typically, we don't connect then when we come to our powerlessness. We go right to our unmanageability. And when we connect with our unmanageability, we go right in the state of depression. Because now we look at what our powerlessness caused, a life extremely unmanageable. On top of that, a lot of consequences. So I come to now, and I'm in these rooms with you, and I got to come to the realization, now you're telling me to connect with my past. Not yet, but I know it's coming. And that's why I'm not going to work the steps. So I come to believe. Well, how did I connect with come to believing? Well, I saw you believing. Beyond you believing in a higher power, in God, I saw you starting to believe in me. And I began to connect with you. When I tell you you're a champ, I ain't lying. When I tell you that the rest of your life can be the best of your life, I ain't just talking. When I tell you that God has handpicked you to do great things and He can give you more than you can ask or imagine, I am not talking smack. See, it's in what you said to me. You began to believe in me before I could believe in myself. So that told me I wanted to be connected with you. But some of you tonight aren't able to do that because you're still connected only to your unmanageability. And it says, came to believe that a power, oh man, I'm starting to believe because you believe in me. I see you believing in this power greater than myself. Well, now, if I'm going to connect to this power, I have to go back to step one and remind myself of the connection I had with my own powerlessness, with my own unmanageability, and that tells me I better get connected to this power greater than myself. So now I'm starting to believe if I get connected to a power greater than myself, it could restore me to sanity. So I now am connected to my powerlessness. I'm connected to my unmanageability. But now because if it was just the first step, where would I go? I'm hopeless. But now I'm connecting with these things, and now through the second step, restore me to sanity. Now I can get connected to restoration. How do I get connected to restoration? I get connected to restoration because I see you being restored. I see the people that are believing in me, and I'm learning now how to believe in God, and I'm getting connected with that. Now I have to ask myself, after the second step, now I'm getting connected to a belief, I'm getting connected to a power, and by getting connected to that power, I'm in turn getting connected to restoration. So if I'm going to get connected to restoration in step 2, what do I need to disconnect from before I go to step 3? Because I just learned in step 2 that this power greater than myself can help me with my powerlessness. I just learned by getting connected to restoration that can help when I got connected to my unmanageability. This power can restore what I couldn't manage. This power can help me over the things that I found myself powerless. So now the third step, the thing that you would know if a person's in disconnect, they continue to live their own will by leaning on their own understanding. That's a disconnect. Trying to figure this out in your own mind, the mind that got you here. The carnal thinking. The third step says now, made a decision. Now, I'm not good at making decisions other than the ones that go get one more. I'm very, very concrete about that. One is too many and 1,000's never enough. I suffer from moreisms. And like I said when I opened the talk up tonight, the fact is that I attach myself to the wrong things. So now I have to make a decision. I have to make a decision to turn my will. I need to connect with whatever God's will is with my life. Now, I have no idea what that is. So I had to start with what God's will isn't. God's will is not for me to leave my children. God's will is not for me to smoke crack. God's will is not for me to be a drug dealer, a thief, a con man, run the streets, and sell dope to people. That is not God's will for me. And my life over to the care of God. So now, if I remind myself that I connected with my powerlessness, I connected with my unmanageability in step 1. Now the third step is asking me to connect my life, turn my life that is unmanageable, my life that is powerlessness, my life that is insane over to the care of something I don't understand. So I had to remind myself, what do I got to lose? Because if I'm honest about my connection with my own unmanageability, how good was I at taking care of myself? And if I couldn't take care of myself, do you think I was taking care of my family? So it says over to the care of God as I understand him. Thank God that step says that, because I didn't have a great understanding of God, but I came to believe because you believed in me. You told me I could do it. You told me how to do it. And that I saw the restoration of myself beginning to take place. But now you're asking me to make a decision. I need to connect with what. See, I've learned that, oh yeah, I've made that decision. That's why I had to go through 11 treatments. I told you I made the decision, but I never did. See, a decision is an action. How do you know if a person made a decision to turn their will and their life over to the care of God as they understand him? If they start working a 4-step. It's as simple as that. And why are you still working in 4 steps 6 months later? Because you don't want to work a 4-step. So the bottom line is this, that now I got to connect with the fact that, okay, this will thing, to turn my life, that means service. That means rigorous honesty. That means rarely have we seen a person fail that has thoroughly followed my path. That I need to learn this self-respect thing. That you know what? I know I'm unmanageable. I know I'm powerless. I now come to the realization that I've been through 11 treatments. I know that my last 15 years of my life has been a blur, and all there is consequences and catastrophe. I know about my unmanageability. So what do I have to lose by connecting with this decision? Well, I don't know how to make a decision. I still don't know how to make little decisions. I can make big ones. I mean, where are we going to go to eat? I'll go through 10 scenarios and I'll bail out because I'm too confused. So I had to connect with that decision. I had to understand what that decision meant. I had to connect with God's will is better than mine, so I start with what God's will isn't. What does it mean if I turn my life over to God? I had to ask you, because you believed in me before I could believe in myself and believe in God. And now I turn my life over to the care of God. So it only takes a level of common sense that if I'm going to turn my life over to the care of something, I better understand it. But if I'm honest with myself, when I connect with my powerlessness and my unmanageability, I turn my life over to the care of crack without understanding it. I turned my life over to the care of alcohol, benzos, opiates, heroin, whatever it was, and I didn't really understand it. So if I can turn my life and my children's life and my family life and my business and everything I love and own over to the care of crack, why can't I do it with God? And the thing is that some of us only work the first three steps. Because in the first three steps, you're only connecting with your past in step one. I'll believe in this. Show me how to believe. I'll make a decision because this is going to make everything better. This is going to make everything better. That's true. But before it gets better, it may have to get a little worse. And that's why in order to work these steps, you have to get connected, and then you got to get connected with your past and get connected with God in step 3 now. And now you're going to have to get connected with your past in order to disconnect it after step 9. And in a way to keep you disconnected from your past is working in step 12. But you have to work the steps in order. So now, check this out. I talked about getting connected now with God, getting connected with the we of the program, and getting connected with yourself. The Bible says, love the Lord your God with your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. If you truly, transparently, cluelessly turn your life over to the care of God, you will see God working in your life. And if you don't quit and you work the rest of the steps, so now I've learned that I got connected with my own powerlessness. I got connected with my own unmanageability. I got connected with we, the you of the program, all of you. Now I'm somewhat connected in a belief that I believe can restore me to sanity. I've been through 11 treatments. I thought the insanity was externally. I've learned that the insanity is internally, in between my 2 ears. So I'm no longer going to get out of treatment and try to go get my outside world straightened out before I deal with the inside. Because all of us are talented, and talent without character is wasted. And our talent will take us places that our character can't sustain us, and we'll go back to where we came from. There's no doubt in my mind there are CEOs, surgeons, doctors, world changers, and leaders in this room. But those are just titles. Without character, you're going back to treatment. And those are the hard truths. So I learned now, I'm getting connected to God. I made this decision. Now check out what the third step prayer says, which is rarely talked about. God, I offer myself to thee. Why would I do that? Because I got to remind myself that I just turned my life over to the care of him. I have to remind myself that I connected with my unmanageability, my powerlessness. God, I offer myself to build with me. I turn my life over to the care of something that can build me. I'm tired of being a rebuilder. Getting, losing, getting, losing, getting, losing, getting, losing. It says, to the build with me and to do with me as thy will. Oh, I don't know about that. That means I can't call my own shots anymore? But if I'm honest with me, isn't this a prayer without saying it that I said to crack? Crack, do with me as thy will. Did I ever know what that will was going to look like when it was all said and done? Did crack tell me what my life would look like with 20 plus years of addiction? It never did. But this tells you exactly what it's going to look like. You're not turning yourself over to a mystery. You're not connecting yourself with what it says, relieve me of the bondage of self. Self-pity, I'm connected to my self-pity, connected to all this garbage. And it says, that I might better do thy will. I got to get connected with this. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those who would help of thy power. That you know what? That guy who believed in me before I could believe in myself, that taught me how to believe in my God, that I turned my life and my will over to. Now I'm understanding why I turned it over to the care of him through this prayer. That now God is going to give me the power to help people that aren't connected. A shy, anxious, fearful, resentful drug addict like me. That couldn't look people in the eye. That hated to be in big rooms like this. That couldn't wait to get out of here and thought this was a joke. And I love what it says here. Thy love. What's love? Thy way of life. That recovery isn't about putting the plug in the jug. Recovery is about changing your way of life. Recovery is a lifestyle. May I do thy will always. So step 4, a way to know an individual is disconnected if they're unwilling to look into yourself and write down why you feel the way you feel. See, people that are disconnected, they just think their problem's drugs. I mean, that's a symptom. We have a living problem. We have a coping problem. And in order to get connected, you got to be willing. What do they say in NA, I believe AA too, that two strong spiritual components are open-mindedness and willingness. So what it says here, if you're disconnected, you be unwilling to look into yourself and write down why you feel what you do. Jim Swanson in the front row when he got his multiple-year medallion. The what is addiction, but why? This is the step now that is telling you, you got to stop and connect with your past. And that's what people don't want to do. They want to start over and pretend that it didn't happen. They mistake forgiveness. I know God's forgiven me, but there's still consequences. And this is the step, the first real step that says you want to get connected with your future, but before you will even have a future, you got to turn around and get connected what you ran from your whole life. You need to connect with your fears. You need to connect with your resentments. The fourth step says, made a searching. Oh, all I need to know. Just like I said, only thing I searched for was more dope. So now you're asking me to connect with myself. I've been running from myself at this time for 35 years. Now you're asking me to connect with myself by making a searching and fearless moral inventory of myself. The reason why I'm what used to be so much immoral is because I would never look back and connect with my past. And now I've learned how to connect with my powerlessness, connect with my unmanageability, connect with the we of the program, connect with the belief, which in turn connected me with restoration in step 2, which in turn connected with me with a decision, which now my will and my life, by doing a third step prayer, I turned it over to him. I'm getting a better understanding. Now because of my connection that I made in 2 and 3, I can connect with God to help me connect with myself. And none of us want to connect with ourselves. We literally have been running from ourselves the majority, if not all of our lives. And that's why people don't connect with the steps. And you want me to write down my fears? You want me to write down my resentments? And connect with my fears that I've been running from? Connect with my resentments that I've been burying and blaming other people for? You're asking me to connect with these things. And I have to connect with them before I disconnect from them. And if you do not connect before you disconnect and you think you've disconnected, boy, girl, you're connected. If they're not talking to you on a daily, they're sitting in your unconscious and they will come up at the wrong time and you'll hear a voice inside your head and it'll take you right out of the game. So we need to connect with our fears, and we're learning how to do that. And now in the fifth step, you're looking at a connect with self. And now you're going to disconnect through step 5. A person that is in a disconnect mode working to step 5 is unwilling to discuss your past actions and feelings with another person. Now, this is this is where the rubber meets the road. Did I say that right this time? Usually it's the metal that meets the road. So I've learned how to connect up until this point. But this one is a big one. And I really didn't like step 4 because I had to look at myself. But now you're asking me to talk with another person and connect with another person about my fears, resentments, and everything else that's on that sheet. Talk about an authentic connection. Talk about maybe the first time in your life that you will ever be connected with a human being. By working a 5th step, you're now connecting with a human, yourself, and with God. And your connection with yourself is going to allow you to be exact. If you're not going to connect with yourself before this step, you're going to sugarcoat everything. You're still going to be telling half-truths. And you're not going to be able to get to the root of the why behind the what. And what's going to happen here is this is the ultimate connection step because I'm getting connected with God, I'm getting connected with myself, and I'm getting connected with another human being. Now, step 6 now. A way to see a disconnect in step 6 would be holding on to old mindsets and behaviors. Now, if I got connected with my fears and resentments in 4, I got connected with my unmanageability and powerlessness in 1, I got connected to a power greater than myself in 2, I got connected to restoration in 2, I made a decision to permanently connect to the best of my ability within my limited understanding to a God of my understanding in 3, which allowed me to connect with my fear and resentment. Now, what I feel like when I now connected with my past, I got to disconnect from this. And now, because I was courageous enough with God's guidance and your guidance to connect with my past, the very thing I've ran from my whole life, now I'm saying, I don't want this stuff in my head, in my heart, in my life anymore. So now I'm connected to 4. I got connected at a higher level to 5, to God, another human being, and myself. And now I'm looking at myself and I'm saying, I'm entirely ready to have God, who I'm already connected to, remove my defects of character because I need to disconnect from them. And I tried to disconnect from lying, manipulating, cheating, shortcutting, and quitting my whole life. I tried to disconnect to feelings of anxiety and depression and low self-worth and unforgiveness and anger and resentment my whole life. I didn't have enough power to do it. Now that I got these new connections, and now that I was willing to connect with my past, I want to disconnect from this, but I know I don't have enough strength to do it. So I remind myself of the power that's greater than myself that I connected myself to 2, the power that I made a decision to turn my will and my life over in 3, the power that allowed me. Now I start to believe, and I remind me my belief started in 2, but my belief, because of my connection to God now, has been enhanced. And maybe, just maybe, when I was first going through this, that God is who you say he is. Maybe, just maybe, he can help me with the stuff that I tried to stop for years. So now I'm connected and I'm ready to disconnect from my character defects. Step 7 in a disconnected person, you would see this: pridefully believing that your willpower will make you a better person. Step 7 says humbly. See, I'm connected to humility by this point. I'm connected to God by this point because I'm asking God to remove my shortcomings. The word remove means disconnect. But you can't run. First, you got to connect to your past in order to disconnect from it. So now I'm connecting to God at an even higher level. When I made a decision down here to turn my will and my life over to him, now I'm connecting to him. My level of faith is at a higher elevation. And you're telling me, because you still believe in me, because I'm still in the room and I haven't ran and I haven't quit, and I'm working with a sponsor and I'm connected with him, I'm connected with you. I mean, what do I got to lose? So I began to ask God to disconnect, and then I read the 7-step prayer. That when I used to sponsor guys in AA, we got on our knees for the 3rd step and 7-step prayer. It says, my Creator. It doesn't say higher power. In 2, they warmed us up a little bit. because they know that a lot of us are peed off at God. But after that, you don't see the word power. It's God. It says, my creator. So now I'm connected to something that created me. Who better to be connected to than the thing that created me? I am now willing. The question I have for you tonight is, when is your now willing going to take place? What's it going to take for you to be now willing? Another jail? Another friend dying? I don't know how much willingness it needs to be after you're dead. But I guarantee you, if I died and I still had a chance to be willing, I would. Some of us have flatlined. I have. Did you have your now after you realized you were still alive? Did the now happen then? Is the now here now? It says, you should have all of me. Whew. Good and bad. That means that your Creator can make your good even better. I pray that you now remove from me every single defective character which stands in the way of my usefulness of you and my fellows. God, I'm starting to understand you a little more that you're freeing me up to help others. And if I help others, like Pastor Jed said on Sunday, it'll help me. It says that grant me the strength. Because I got that connection that gives me the strength. Without the connection, I don't got enough strength. And I will go out from here and do your bidding. To know now of this connect, disconnect, connect, disconnect. 6 and 7, you're asking God to help you disconnect from these things, and you wouldn't be able to do it in your own strength if you weren't connected to Him. And what I see happening here now in the 8th step, now you've had a little practice in step 4. Which now prepared you to connect with yourself again. This one's a tough one. It was hard enough for me to connect with my fears and resentments and also talk about them with God, another human being, and me being present. Aren't you sick of having people talk about you when you're not in the room? There they go again. We haven't heard from him or her for days. When you're connected, they'll want to talk to you. See, now the 8th step is, if you're in a disconnect mode, you're unwilling to write down and acknowledge anyone that you have harmed because you have not connected with your past in the previous steps. You can't pretend that this stuff never happened. They're not pretending that it never happened. And the thing is that it doesn't matter even if people that you've never done this with have already forgiven you, you haven't forgiven yourself. You haven't, maybe, I'll say it like this, you have not experienced forgiveness. The Bible says if you don't forgive, God's not going to forgive. But now, to connect in step 8, making a list, now I got to connect with all these people that I harmed. My carnal mind, the first thing, I can't remember all those names. That's not what your sponsor's saying. Just write down who you remember, because this won't be the first time you work in 8 and 9. So now I'm asked to connect with all the people that I had harmed. I don't want to connect with that. But I didn't want to connect with my fear and resentment either. And once I learned to connect with that and then disconnect with it in 5, I learned about all the other character flaws and shortcomings that I had to disconnect from too. And now I want to clean my side of the street. So I need to connect with myself. I need to connect with what's going on in my mind and my heart about these people that I had harmed. And it says, and became willing to make amends to them all. See, people trip on 8 and 9. They start worrying about 9. Well, they're at 8. And now what it's saying is that I need to connect with myself again. Well, I've had practice in the previous 7 steps. So a disconnect in step 9 is avoiding people you had harmed, hoping they would forget about what happened. And even if they did forget about it, people come and do amends to me all the time. I've been in recovery housing for 14 years. There's been a lot of stuff going down. A lot of offenses, resentments, and different things flying. I get letters from prison all the time for amends. And I'm not perfect, though. I'm just telling you, when you ain't connected, you're crazy. And it's everybody else's fault but yours. because you haven't learned to connect with the past. Now check this out. Made direct amends. So now in 8, you were asked, and I was asked to connect with this list of all the people I'd harmed. Now you're asking me to go connect with the people that I harmed? There is no way I'm going to connect with those people without a connection with God. And there's certainly no way I'm going to go make these amends with all these character defects and shortcomings, because once you say something I don't agree with when I'm making my amends, I'm going to fly out the handle and run out of the room. Go smoke crack. And blame you for it. So now you're asking me to connect with the people, such people. Oh, thank God. Well, how do I know who those people are? Ask my sponsor. That helped me with the list in 8. Made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. So now I'm getting connected. Now you look at the progression of connection here. Connection with a belief, connection with unmanageability, connection with powerlessness, connection with restoration, connected with God, you turn your will, connecting with your fears, connecting with your resentments, connecting with another human being about your fears and resentments, connecting now in turn with God about your character defects and shortcomings, connecting with, because once you write it down, it loses its power. When it's in you, it's alive and it's talking to you. When you write it on a piece of paper, you will see it differently than what it really is. So now, you're asking me to connect with these people, but the thing that really gave me hope about this was when you told me I could experience the promises if I did it. If we are painstaking, this is going to be painful to get connected. This is going to be painful to connect with my past and then disconnect from it. If we are painstaking about this phase of our development, we will be amazed before we are halfway through that, you know what, this works. Disconnect these steps. We are going to know a new freedom. That's connecting to something new and a new happiness. I love when it says that what I thought happiness wasn't. Right. I'm connected to a new happiness. I'm connected now to a new freedom. We will not regret the past, like I said when I opened the meeting, or wish to shut the door on it. See, quit running. Your past can help somebody else's future. I'm grateful. I can relate to almost the majority of circumstances in this room. And if I can, I can find somebody that can with 250 plus of you. So now I'm connecting to a new freedom and a new happiness because I've already learned how to connect. We will not regret nor shut the door on it. We will comprehend. I'm connecting to a new level of comprehension. The word serenity. I'm comprehending serenity. I'm connected to it. And peace. I know I got this connection with God that is giving me peace because I cleaned my side of the street in my amends. Not everybody forgave me. They haven't 14 years later. They're still not forgiving me. But because I did what you told me to do, I've experienced forgiveness. Because you know what? I've had people forgive me and I still didn't experience forgiveness. And just because they forgive me, I didn't experience. I would rather clean my side of the street because I have to remind myself when I connected with my own powerlessness, I cannot control the fact that you will forgive me or not. Say connection. Say connection. See, this connection, no matter how far down the scale that I had to get connected with my past, I have gone. I mean, it's so important. We have gone that we will see how our experience can benefit others. That feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. Think about that. I didn't want to connect with my past because it was full of self-pity. But once I connected with my unmanageability and my powerlessness, it made me look at it differently. Once I wrote it down in 4 and wrote it down in 8, it looked differently on paper. And now I don't regret the past. I knew it had to happen to get me connected to God. But I know that this can benefit other people. And I learned how now to disconnect from usefulness, being totally useless. I've learned to disconnect from self-pity. Self-pity is the greatest form of self-centeredness there is. If you're a junkie like me, you should be jumping up and down on a daily. You ain't dead and you're breathing. You ain't incarcerated. I said that last week, how many criminals you got in the room? About 100 of you. But when I said none of you ever drove drunk, you're a criminal. Well, that just offended you. You know why? Because you won't connect with your past. But you know what? Your past is connected to you. See, it's so important that we grasp this, that we will lose, disconnect, lose interest, disconnect of selfish things, gain interest in our fellows, connect, self-seeking, disconnect through slipping away. Our whole attitude, connect, outlook, connect, upon a new life, connect, will change, connect. Fear, disconnect, economic insecurity, disconnect. Oh, were you worried about paying your bills when you were buying dope? Why are you tripping now?
That's right.
Please. We will intuitively connect, know how to handle situations, connect that used to baffle us. We will suddenly realize that God is doing for us what we cannot do. Are these extravagant promises? We think not. That's why I got connected. They are being fulfilled among us, sometimes quickly. I get hesitant when I see it happening too fast, people. It's better that it goes slowly. Because if it comes too quick, you may not appreciate it. Because of your talent, you're a strong starter. But because of manipulation, shortcuts are nothing but setbacks. We have to understand that this connection is everything. And they are being fulfilled among us, sometimes quickly, sometimes they will always, God will never lose his reputation over you. They will always materialize if we're step 10. So now I've connected with my past. I've asked God to help me disconnect it after 9. And now I'm willing to connect with myself and you at a different level. I love it. Continue to take personal inventory. And we will win, not if. And some of us, the only thing that's wrong with being wrong is if you think you're right. The only thing that's wrong with being wrong is if you think you're right. What if I was wrong for 35 years? And it says, continue to take personal inventory. Because of the connection, I've been able to connect with myself. I've been able now to connect with God. I've been able to connect with you and other people. I've been able to connect with people from my past. And now, when I was wrong, I'm probably meant because of my connection with God and you, when this stuff comes back, I'm so connected with God and myself that when it comes back, it don't feel right. It doesn't feel right to lie and treat people with disrespect. And a disconnect in step 10 would be focusing on how you've been wronged. And never admitting your own wrongs. A disconnect in step 11, only going to God when you're in trouble. And asking God for selfish things. It says, sought through prayer and meditation. When you're connected at this level, all you want is to get more connected. That's all I want, is to be more connected to God in my life. Because I know what Matthew 6:33 says. And it isn't even about the things. But if God is my first priority, he's got everything else covered. So sought through prayer and meditation to improve my conscious contact with God. I want to improve my connection. I was in group with the guys last week, and one gentleman was saying he had a connection with God. I said, possibly there was some static in your connection. No disrespect. Just like when we're on the phone. Hello? Hello? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Especially with these stupid Bluetooths. Sometimes there's static in my connection with God. And it says to improve. I want to improve with God, but praying only for the knowledge of his will. I learned that his will is better than mine in 3, and looking at myself in 4 and 8, and I've asked him to remove the self in 6 and 7. I clean my side of the street in 9. I'm now man enough to admit when I'm wrong now in 10, and I want nothing more than to get this connection at a higher level, and I ain't praying for nothing but for his will to be carried out in my life and for him to give me the power to do it. Because whatever God has for me is much more than I could ever do for myself. And God says in his word that he'll give you more than you can ask or imagine. God will give you something that you didn't even think you needed. And he won't give you something that you thought you needed. And what it says here is so true in step 12, in disconnect, not changing, not working the steps, being a different person depending on, if a disconnected person is a different person at work, a different person in family, a different person around the boys or the girls. We're a chameleon. Being whoever they want us to be, or whatever the crowd you are in. That's not a connected person. A connected person has now, through the previous other 11 connections, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of the steps, of the connection. There is an awakening as a result of this connection. And we tried to carry the message. I mean, you can't get somebody else sober, but we tried to carry the message. We tried to tell people about this connection we have with God, this connection we have with ourselves, the connection we have with our fellows. This connection is everything. This connection has given me everything. This connection has restored everything. This connection has given me stuff I didn't need. This connection has raised my children. This connection has restored my finances and my health and my mind and my heart. This connection is everything. To practice these principles in all your affairs. This connection allows me to the best of my ability, and when I fail, I know I fail. But the question as we close tonight is, are you drifting? Are you even connected? If I was the number one slot machine that was hitting in town tonight, if I was the number one dope man, if I was stand-up Franks, the Christmas drinks, I don't mean to tempt you, you'd want to get connected. So I love God. God says, even if you're not connected, when I've given you every opportunity to get connected tonight, you can get connected. Test yourselves to make sure you're solid. Is your connection solid in the faith? Don't drift around taking everything. Well, I'm not connected today, but I'll get connected next week. Next week may not come, brother. Give yourselves regular checkups on being connected. You need firsthand evidence. I mean, it's like walking into some thug on the streets. Yeah, I'm connected. I'm connected. Well, show me your connections. You ain't got no connections. When it comes to your connection to God, there needs to be evidence. And the evidence is the fruit in your life. The evidence is the peace and the love and the joy and the boldness in your life. The evidence is that you were willing to connect with your old life to get connected to your new life. And it says, test it out. If you fail the test, do something about it. Get connected. I hope the test won't show that we have failed. I have been giving it my all on Tuesday nights to help people get connected for 14 years. And if I fail at teaching you how to get connected, I'd rather fail than you do. Because if I fail at this lesson on connection and I try better next time, but if you fail at getting connected, or I fail at this getting connected, we're going to die. We're going to die. It says, but if it comes to that, I'd rather have the test showed our failure than yours. But you know what? This doesn't fail. That's right. This doesn't fail, and it hasn't failed, and never will fail. But it says we're rooting for the truth. Some family members are here tonight with their loved ones. Some people are watching online that got drug addict kids and spouses and nephews, and they're rooting that the truth will win out in them, but they want recovery more than the person that's addicted. We're rooting for the truth to win out on you. We couldn't possibly do otherwise. No one doing what Jim and Liz do and their managers at BSM or what we've been doing for 14 years. I mean, it wouldn't be, if we weren't working it, it wouldn't work. We wouldn't be here 14 years later. There's enough evidence in this room. We just don't put up with our limitations. When you get connected to God, you're going to know where you can or can't go. In your mind and in your actions. Then go out and celebrate every strength. Every triumph of truth in you. We pray hard that will come together in your lives. I pray to God that you get connected. I pray to God that I stay connected. Because this connection is where it's at. God bless you.